toxic.
I know there's something
This could be sliding.
What are today's hot?
Oh, God, you're...
Take my... When you go to the season for 2 seconds during...
Turn up the volume. USAPrepares.com with the original survival economist, Vicent Finelli.
Cocked, locked. Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USAPrepares.com. We're delighted you're here, and we're broadcasting from Missouri. So link to your instructors on the website, USAPrepares.com. Converging threats are confronted by your instructors. I'm Vicent Finelli. And if you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. And we have a new listen line. So if you want to try a listen line without commercials, 605-477-3249. 605-477-3249. It's up 24 hours a day. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. Welcome, Rick Miller.
Good morning. I have some static, and I have a need for a little higher volume from you, please.
Okay. Well, Tom is engineering the broadcast, and he can take care of that right now. Yeah. How's that, Rick?
We've got volumes a little better. The static has been really, really bad on my phone the last week or so. So it may not be you. It may be CenturyLink. Go get them. But
okay. So I'll tell you what, Rick. What we'll do is
to go chase.
I'll tell you what. During the first break, we can reconnect with you and see if we can eliminate some of that static. But I'll tell you what, we can give CenturyLink some static. And seriously, here's what you do. I have CenturyLink here at the farm, and I call them now every 6 months, and I ask them for a loyalty reduction. What they'll do is if you call CenturyLink and you ask for their loyalty department, and ask them for a credit or a reduction on your phone bill, they will be delighted to offer you a $10 credit. So the point is, you can ask one time, and it's good for 6 months. So you have to make 2 calls a year, and those 2 5-minute calls will save you 12 times $10 or $120. And I venture to suggest that most of us cannot make net $120 in 10 minutes. So there you have it. Just call CenturyLink and ask them for your $10 per month loyalty credit. So let's give them a little bit of static. Rick, at the top of the hour news, there was a piece talked about Radio Shack, and it hit a nerve with me. And there are posts on the internet about Radio Shack's Chapter 11 plan, a bankruptcy plan. And they're asking a judge to approve, a judge in Delaware to approve a settlement involving gift card holders. There are $46 million outstanding in gift cards. And what Radio Shack wants to do, or under this settlement plan, about a third of them would be paid in full. So if you have $100 in gift card, you'll get paid in full. 2/3 of them will be paid pennies on the dollar. Now, this violates Max's law. Max's law is something that we talk about here on the broadcast. Max's law is very simple. Buy the best, pay cash, and take delivery. Well, having a gift card violates Max's law. Why would you want a gift card for Radio Shack? Why would you want to buy one? Why would you want to give one? Okay? And it doesn't just include Radio Shack. It includes gift cards everywhere. So why give someone a gift card where they're forced to spend money at Radio Shack, which is now in bankruptcy? Okay? Why give someone a gift card for Walmart or any other place? If you're going to give a gift that relates to, I don't know what to get, but here's the equivalent of some currency, why don't you just give the currency? okay, and let that person have it and use it wherever he or she wants, rather than a gift card. Rick, you have any comments on that?
Well, it's just the same old thing with theaters and the rest of it. How about getting a gift card for Burger King? That's nuts.
Yeah.
Jesus. I mean, here, have some more toxin. Because I love you.
Rick, I was I was in negotiations with Burger King. We're going to have them as a sponsor up until a couple minutes ago.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, it's like everybody's toxic. You know, everything is toxic now. It's like I don't understand what's happening to our air, but my respiratory is all messed up. It isn't seasonal changes or pollen. I have completely, controlled that part of my body years and years and years ago. Something's happening in our atmosphere. They are hijacking our air like they tried to do water. And I'm going to point out, yesterday, I posted the 8 different kinds of geoengineering that have now been identified with different kinds of clouds, different kinds of particulate. There are 8 different organizations that are now spraying in our atmosphere for multiple purposes, one of which is getting rid of fly ash. The coal ash that is, they're dumping it in our atmosphere with the intent of not having to get around EPA. Now,
What a great-
that's just one of them.
What a great idea.
You ought to read that. You can go to my website at DocRAM, DocRAM.com. That will take you right directly to my Facebook, which is linked to my website for posts that I do every day and my blog. And I have to tell you, the different kinds of geoengineering going on, I'm now beginning to recognize them. And I don't know if any of you have noticed how increased the efforts have been in destroying our atmosphere. I mean, to the point where I don't even enjoy going out into the sun during the summer anymore. And I know that this is the way it is for everyone else because I hear people saying so. And now it's messing up my respiratory.
Rick, well, I'm not speechless, but I'm close to it because I mentioned this week that over the weekend I was baling hay. And we had some failures. We had some hydraulic hose failures on one of our tractors, the main tractor I use for baling hay. It's a pretty big tractor. It's about 100 horsepower, 11,000 pounds. And we had 2 hoses fail this baling session, just this one. We've had many hoses fail this summer, many hoses on different tractors. So it's not just one tractor. And I was on instead of using a 100 horsepower tractor, I was downgraded because of the equipment not operating, because of the hydraulic failures, down to a 40 horsepower tractor. And I was out in the sun, and I mentioned that this sun was drilling through me. It was absolutely brutal. And if a person saw me, they'd see this guy in a tractor with a long sleeve shirt, blue jeans, gloves covering my hands, a respirator, a hat. I was under a canopy, a fiberglass canopy that's on this tractor, and I had safety sunglasses on that wrap around to protect me from my eyes from getting all this dust from baling hay. Rick, even with all that, the sun was drilling through my clothing. It was drilling through my blue jeans to the point where it was painful, literally painful.
Here's the other bad news on this. 3 or possibly 4 of the 8 different forms of geoengineering I've now identified, 3 of them have nanoparticles, which means there's nothing that shields you from that. It goes right through your clothing, right through your skin, and into your body.
Rick, you mentioned fly ash, and I'm looking at some of these chemtrail types. We have the salty metallic type, the iron/aluminum type, and we have the drywall dust type. So when you talk about fly ash, one of the things that we're talking about is the drywall dust type, because what we've done now is we have these coal-fired electric generation plants, and when they're done burning the coal, they have this fly ash, which is like this white dust. It's kind of a heavy dust. What they do is they mix that with water, and instead of using gypsum and mining gypsum for drywall, they use this fly ash from the coal-fired electric generation plants.
Fly ash has radium-226 and 228, even more deadly than plutonium. People don't seem to realize that these companies that have responsibility for profit margins are cutting edges and infecting everybody in the world. And if you don't think it's bad here, you ought to see what it's like over in Europe. And I've got pictures of the individual planes being loaded in England. We actually have pictures of who's doing it and what they're doing now. And I have pictures of that on my website. The thing is, we're now starting to get down to the end game, and everybody knows it. And the problem is, there's nothing I can do as an individual to stop that. I'm looking out at my sky this morning, and it's filthy. It almost makes me not even want to go outside because I don't want to see it, much less breathe it. And unfortunately, it just falls right through the house. There's no way to screen it out. It falls right through the house. At least 3 of the 8 different forms are in nanoparticle, which means we have no way to screen it. And this is being done intentionally for profit margins and corporations that could give a flying F about us as human beings. Why? Too many people in the world. No problem.
Rick, you mentioned last week that your saliva is white.
Yep.
Rick, I'm here to tell you, you are not the only one who has white saliva. Class, test yours. See if your saliva is white. See if you are parched most of the time. I'm sitting here in the studio, and I've got a mug with some coffee in it, and I'm still parched. And the day has just started. DocRAM is with us. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us. And if you'd like to go to his website, docram.com, DocRAM.com. If you'd like to buy his books, RichardAllenMiller.com, Richard, A-L-A-N, Miller.com. You know, Rick, we have this website. I've got it in front of me, and it talks about these chemtrail types, and the author of this particular article, and I'll post it on our website as well, talks about, well, categorizing chemtrails by attributes, taste and smell. And so he says that one of them is the salty metallic type, another is an iron aluminum type, a drywall dust type, that'd be the fly ash type, an acetone type, swamp water type, pharmaceutical type, a sulfur type, blunt metallic type, metallic chemical type, pesticide type, freshly cut grass type, dryer sheets or fabric softener type, and model cement, meaning that that clear cement that we used to use to put plastic models together before it became hard to get, model cement or burnt plastic type. So that's the categorizations that this person has used to identify by smell and taste these chemtrails. And it's insidious. If you think about it, taking fly ash, the result of burning coal waste, and making it airborne is insanity. Absolutely insane. And if you think about it, even putting it in drywall is insane. The problem that we have, or one of the problems that we have, is the way we use energy. I believe that we are incredibly wasteful. Let me give an example. since I'm working on converting the entire farm to alternative energy, the first thing that I'm doing is looking at reducing the consumption. The more we reduce the consumption of electricity, the fewer the number of watts we'll have to generate to replace that energy that we had from the utility company. Well, if you look at a what do they call those things? Like a crock pot, where you put some meat and potatoes and you put the glass lid on it and you cook it. Yeah, crock pot. If you look at that, they don't have insulation. They get really hot on the outer skin of these metal encased small appliances. We could use less energy if we insulated them, but well, it would require the additional engineering of the insulation and the additional cost of the insulation material. But over the lifetime of the crock pot, it would save energy. But maybe crock pots aren't designed to last very long, so why waste the extra effort in making them more energy efficient? We have a General Electric dishwasher here, and there's virtually no insulation on this General Electric dishwasher. The proof of it is if you feel anywhere around the dishwasher when it's running, there's heat. And the heat is from the transmission of the hot water heat to the surrounding area. Well, imagine if we insulated it better and we'd use less energy to heat the hot water to wash the dishes. Wouldn't that be nice? How long do dishwashers last? I don't know, 7 years or maybe a little more if we're fortunate. The bottom line, Rick, is we're doing a couple things that are wrong. One is we're not making appliances repairable. We're not making appliances that are as energy efficient as they could be. So now we're generating more pollution to provide more energy than we need to provide.
Well, it's like the old DeLorean and the idea of making it as good as you can make it.
Yeah, he had a car that was stainless steel.
To do that because of marketing. We'll call it Mopar and the planned obsolescence of something. You know, when I was in grad school, I was at MIT, and Corning had come out with a thing called fluidic devices. And what they were doing is making computers using puffs of air for space. And they were using things called Schmidt triggers and little gating that would move a puff of air right or left. In the mid-'60s.
So, Rick, it's not just you and it's not just me with these chemtrails. You know, I've woken up in the morning after being outside and my eyes were really, really itchy. This is kind of a new phenomenon. I mean, it's not like it was like this, you know, years ago. It's not like I've been suffering from this for years. So my eyes are itchy, my throat is dry, I'm more thirsty, my voice has changed. And when I got done on Sunday baling hay, and you know, this time I was exposed. All I had was this canopy over the tractor, and the sun was drilling through me. I said to Mrs. Finelli, after I came back, and I barely was able to climb off the tractor. I was really sore and beat up from a really, really rough ride for, you know, spending the day on the tractor. And she said, like, how'd it go? And I said, I don't think I can do this anymore. And it was so difficult being out there being cooked by the sun that I literally said, I don't think I can do this anymore. And I'm not saying that, you know, I'm old and feeble. What I'm saying is it is absolutely brutal. And then I, you know, went in the house and I said, you know, here's what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned that if this weather continues like this, these chemtrails are continually sprayed, we will not be able to build infrastructure. I can't see how we can have men up, you know, on scaffolds building buildings. I don't see how we can be doing this in this kind of environment. And how hot was it? It was 87 degrees. So I remember when I was, you know, a child, 95-degree days, being out lying in the sun, getting a tan as if it were nothing. Today, 5 minutes in the sun, I am drenched, soaking wet. My skin is more oily than ever before. Rick, are you seeing the same thing?
Well, yeah, it's happening. It's happening everywhere in the world. It is about corporations cutting corners, and instead of using dump trucks and having to put them in big pits like we do our garbage, they're now using the atmosphere. And L. Ron Hubbard wrote that in Battlefield Earth. This is where we're going. And it will have that kind of picture of the planet, in the movie Battlefield Earth, and the alien planet, and the whole thing is a big, toxic waste bowl. And that is exactly what is happening to all of us right now. And it isn't what I would do. And so it does not represent my values. And I have no say about it.
Rick, I was at an event in Springfield, Missouri years ago, and I ran into this guy who was a representative of the electrical cooperatives within Missouri. And I said to him, I think it'd be great if you could do a seminar for us at our expo and teach people about how to save electricity, how not to waste it. And I said, I've seen these porch lights on during the day, people who don't look like they have a lot of wherewithal. They live in very, very modest trailers, and they leave their porch lights on. And, then you see that those trailers are abandoned. And, I have this feeling that, we the paying customers are ending up paying for a lot of this. How about if we teach people how to save electricity? And he looked at me like I was nuts. He said, we're not in the business for that. That's not what we're doing. And literally, the directors of corporations have a fiduciary responsibility to increase sales. So their plan is to sell more electricity, not teach people how to conserve, reduce their consumption, which is wrong, which is absolutely wrong because we're all breathing the same air. Why would we do this to ourselves? It's absolutely nuts. But we are. So I'd like to, so what is the solution? I mean, we can complain about it. The solution, to me, is to run for, a director's position at the electrical co-op. And if I am told that my job as a director is to increase sales, I'll tell them that, well, I've got a problem with that, and my job as a director is to become more efficient and less wasteful. That's what I see as a high priority, and I'd like to teach that. I'd like to teach that to the membership, and I'd like to reward people who are conserving and not wasting. That way, we'll have a little bit better air to breathe and a little less pollution in the environment. I mean, right now, Rick, we're drilling holes in the earth, and we are dumping toxins. We're dumping toxins into wells, which is crazy.
You're speaking of fracking and all the things that are going on around where you live now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah, and the result of the byproducts are now being put in the atmosphere because the volumetric dispersal is far more efficient than putting it in a small hole on Earth.
Yeah.
You can
and
spread
so
it out over the entire globe volumetrically of 20 Earths. The problem is, at some point, it hits a saturation where it's toxic, and now you have a bunch of single species dying off, like the antelope in Russia. It's completely, a whole herd died in 2 days because of bacteria in their gut that was normally inert being activated because of global warming. This is happening with red tide along the coast and no longer tide pools. This is happening in all different avenues, and nobody is addressing it. And, of course, the media is being controlled by the very people that are dumping the fly ash and other toxins in our atmosphere. And nobody is accountable for it. And once we have some names, if you come up with a name, I will pout it, shout it far and wide on my media what I can do. I think it's time that these people are taken to court.
Or,
It's all about money.
or there's another way.
It's not working for me. I have a runny nose this morning. Why? It's dried out. Why? Where's the water in the atmosphere? You know, they're talking about now we're going to have flooding this winter in where I live, you know, where it's feast or famine. And there are tornadoes and hurricanes now out in the center of the Pacific. We've never had that before. And with El Niños and the rest of it, there is absolutely no question we are in a global change, and these individual corporations that are taking advantage of this with people not knowing what's going on, it's all about profit.
There's no question about that.
They're not doing it to help us.
Rick, there's a series that I was introduced to, which is called Madam Secretary. Have you seen this series?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, it's allegedly fiction. I think it's a documentary on how things work in Congress and at the highest levels of the president's office and the cabinet. Anyway, so the Secretary of State. It's about the Secretary of State, and it shows how the carrot and stick approach works. So, for example, you can say, I'll tell you what, if you go along with this, there's some benefits for you. By the way, and if you don't do it, you're going to take this beating. And it shows how this works. I believe it's a documentary on exactly that. Well, as you were describing the problems with the environment and pollution, I was thinking about this other approach. And one of our instructors here at USA Prepares is Larry Nichols. Larry Nichols was very concerned about the illegal aliens coming across the border and taking our jobs and destroying our economy, all with the blessing of the government. Well, he decided that he was going to expose those people responsible for all these illegal aliens coming over here. And then he learned about Kim Davis. Kim Davis, the court clerk in Kentucky who refused to issue marriage licenses to homosexuals. And so he decided, and he announced this on USA Prepares on Tuesday. And I have an update, and this is part of the update. So he announced that he was going to Kentucky, and he just needed to raise a little bit of money to go. And, well, he only mentioned this trip to Kentucky on USA Prepares. Well, the money's been raised. He called me last night and he said he's going to Kentucky. Now, he's past using the carrot approach. He's now at the stick. And he was in contact with the governor's office of Kentucky yesterday. And he said he's coming to Kentucky. And by the way, that he wants this homosexual marriage to stop. He's getting the churches involved, and it's a rally cry. He believes that it's like the Tea Party, the first Tea Party. I'm not talking about, this Tea Party that we've learned about years ago. I'm talking about 1775. He feels it's like that. And he's going to Kentucky. And his plan is really simple. It's just him. He's going to go and he's going to say, tell you what, there's some things that, you probably don't want said. So the best thing to do to keep them from being said is to stop this gay marriage license issuing. Stop it cold. Or I guess these things are going to come out. And people are going to be embarrassed. And it's going to destroy careers. So what do you want to do? That's the plan. And he's going to Kentucky. So when you talk about, how do we do things? That's the Larry Nichols approach. And it's the carrot and a great big stick. By the way, I've got some more updates, just a couple minutes, and I can finish the updates when we come back, about Larry Nichols called me last night, and he told me the latest. I'll tell you when we come back. So I was on the phone with Larry Nichols, and he told me he's going to Kentucky, and he's going by himself. And he said, Vincent, sit down, I've got some news for you. And I said, okay. He said, you know, I got a call from the National Enquirer. And he was talking to his friend at the National Enquirer, and he said that his friend said, you know, he knows that Larry Nichols is going to Kentucky. And so Larry asked him, how did he find out about it? And he said, it's all over. Not that it's over and done with, meaning the news is all over. So through the network of news gatherers, they've learned that Larry Nichols is going to Kentucky to challenge the homosexual marriage, and he wants it stopped. And so the only source that the origination of this, the only broadcast that Larry did was here on USA Prepares. So here's the point. The point is there are people who are paying attention to what is being said here, Rick. And we're exposing the chemtrails. We can stop these things. We really can. But it's going to take the kind of tactics that Larry Nichols has been trained in, which is exposing who is doing these things and making them famous and releasing information about them. You know, like there's a police chief in Cincinnati, and he was sacked, fired. He took a selfie of himself at a funeral of a fellow officer, and he used his position of chief of police to get sporting tickets. I mean, these kinds of things, you know, you wonder, why do these cops act the way they act? Well, it comes from the top. They are led by example. They watch the boss. The boss says more tickets, more speeding tickets, more DUI charges, and you guys will go and do them, or you'll get the night shift, or you'll be transferred to the combat zone, or you know, that nice new car that you've got. Well, geez, you know, it costs money to have that car, and you guys aren't carrying your own weight, so you know, we're going to have to, you know, give you that old jalopy that we have out back. That's the kind of stuff that's going on. These cops are being forced into this bad behavior. These pilots are being encouraged to fly these toxic delivery, these poison delivery missions, but they're too weak. They're too weak to say no. The pilots are too weak to say no. The cops are too weak to say no. Politicians are too weak to not accept bribes. And that's what's going on here. So the only thing that's left is to use their tactics, to stop the poisoning of the planet, to stop the stealing from we the villagers at gunpoint. You know, that's the way I see it, Rick, and that's the reason I told the update about Larry Nichols, because I don't see very many options left.
I don't have answers. I'm having bad interference, which means I'm going to have him recall me again after we go on break. Just thought I'd let you know. CenturyLink is doing their thing here.
Yeah, that's a feature. They want you to know that they want you to be able to contrast good clear signal with less than good clear signal, so you'll really appreciate it when you do get a good clear signal. Yeah, that's the plan. Rick, you know, I was reading a story about Alzheimer's, and now there's this belief that Alzheimer's can be passed human to human. It can be passed through a blood transfusion. It can be passed through contaminated instruments. Wow. Is that something that we should be concerned about? I certainly think so. I really do. I'm not saying that I have conclusive proof, but I'm saying that do I want a blood transfusion from somebody I don't know? Absolutely not. And so when someone has to have a serious procedure done in our family, we donate the blood. We donate the blood to make sure it is ready to go in case one of our family members needs it. Because we don't want some unknown blood like from prisoners during the Clinton administration when people got hepatitis and HIV. We'll be right back. Everyone all set, cocked, locked? Hour number 2 of the USAPrepares.com with Dr. Richard Allen Miller. You know, Rick, there was a homeopathy conference in Germany, and it descended into chaos after 29 of the delegates there suffered violent convulsions, and it looked like they had consumed a hallucinogenic drug. And, you know...
I'm back.
Yeah, on the surface, we're talking about the conference, the homeopathy conference in Germany, and how 29 of the participants suffered hallucinogenic effects. And it damaged this damaged the image of this conference. And, you know, the more news I read, the more I question everything. And I'm thinking, wow, you know, there's a couple ways this could have happened. One, they could have all said, hey, there's this new compound that heals everything. Let's, you know, it's natural, and who wants to try it? Or they could have been poisoned with it to destroy the image of the conference and these natural practitioners of alternative medicine. And, you know, I would have to lean toward that because there are medical doctors and naturopaths who have been killed as a result of standing against vaccines and so forth. So I'm concerned about what happened. Rick, what do you think about that?
Well, a long time ago, I was in love with a woman, and we were dating, and one of her friends at a party slipped a drug into my drink, and then laughed at my helplessness and fear of what was going on. This is a level of violation that, in my opinion, I wanted to kill those people. I wanted to kill them. I didn't. I let somebody else go after them, but because they had done this to other people, and they thought it was funny to watch me in fear and not knowing what was really going on. It was I don't even know what the drug was. As far as I can tell, it might have been Rohypnol. I don't know. The date rape drug. I don't know what it was. What I do know is that it scared the hell out of me, and I'm an old player from the 60s, and I felt violated. And if this happened in Germany, if they find those people, I would like to see a public execution to stop this kind of nonsense. That's what they're essentially doing to us with our atmosphere. It is a premeditated form of murder. It is killing people. It is certainly ruining portions of the joy in my life. I don't enjoy going outside anymore, just looking at the sky and how hazy, cruddy it looks. There are no real clouds. When there are real clouds, the clouds aren't, they're mixed with this other thing, and it's like somebody is laughing at us for our helplessness and inability to know what to do next. And to me, this is a type of violation of the highest level and deserves the highest level of exchange in terms of law enforcement. And I don't know why I don't know yet. I have started about 4 years ago trying to vet what actually is going on, and even in my research, I can't figure it out. And to this day, those people that slipped me that drug, like this thing that happened in Germany, this is absolutely wrong. It's like intentional poisoning.
Right, and the analogy is that the homeopathy conference where these people were poisoned, these conference participants, 29 of them. I mean, I see the picture, and there's like an ambulance everywhere they could put one to come to the rescue of these victims.
And some of them were life-threatening. It was actually because of their being pure or clean or conscious of the kinds of foods and quality of foods that they would put in their diet. To have someone intentionally do that to them, I think merits the highest level of attempted murder.
You know, Rick, so this would be a local thing, a local event, a local crime, and the natural extension of that thought process is that geoengineering is a global crime on a higher level. Now, the results of
genocide is what it's called, with the intentional intent of killing the state's own citizens. Mm-hmm. Genocide. Not genocide, genocide.
Mm-hmm. Rick, there was a broadcaster.
People like Cheney should be taken to public execution where they chop their head off in public.
You didn't say that, did you?
I did. I think that that's the level of response that I feel in myself. And I'm a sweet old man.
The event in Germany, this local event, there was a broadcaster who reported that there were people curled up, they were incoherent, they were suffering violent convulsions. I mean, this is a pretty darn serious thing.
It's a psychic attack. It is a type of psychic attack that deserves a stake through their heart.
I remember pledging a fraternity during college, and I remember my immediate reaction. The brothers said to the pledges, "Okay, guys, here's what we're going to do. Go in this room and wait for us." It happened to be a place that served alcohol, and none of us knew it, but it was a gay bar. And this was back in the 70s. And a few of the pledges, including me, I went in there with the guys. We were told to do it. And all of a sudden we were approached by these homosexuals. And we left immediately. And I walked up to my big brother, smiled at him, and decked him. right then and there. I sucker punched that guy. Right then and there. And that was my immediate reaction. I was a lot younger and I was more calm back then. And the point I'm trying to make is that was my immediate reaction to just, being hoodwinked into going into a gay bar and being fresh meat. Well, this thing in Germany is way more serious than that. And this thing with the global engineering is way more serious than that. That's the problem. These are high crimes that are being committed against...
High crime. That's the word. That's the word you want to use. High crime. That's against your true will.
High crimes against everyone and everything. There is no greater crime. There's no greater crime than killing us with geoengineering chemicals, destroying our ability to breathe. I've said to Mrs. Finelli, I've gone outside and I've said, it's hard to breathe. Think about that. So what about someone who has a respiratory problem? Okay, and they go outside and they go, yeah, it's really hard to breathe now, harder than yesterday. And are they thinking that, are they looking up, do they know about the geoengineering? Do they know that they are being slowly killed? And the difference between what happened in Germany is it was fast acting compared to the geoengineering, which is acting a little more slowly. But over the years that this geoengineering, this chemical poisoning of our atmosphere has been going on, and it's a little slower. But I'll tell you what, it seems like it's working pretty well for the other team. They're slowing us down. And one of the results of what they're doing, hair loss, thinning of hair, inflammation in the heart, difficulty breathing, oily skin, itchy skin, dry eyes. How many of you have more hair than you had, a couple years ago? I venture to say very few. So look in the mirror and look at your hair. Is it thinner than it was? Are you happy with that? Rick, the only solution that I can think of is exposing these criminals, using the internet, using the airwaves, using blogs, one-on-one communications, and exposing who they are. Now, if you expose one of these pilots and he lives in your neighborhood, and you tell everybody, and you ostracize him or her and their family and their children, and your children point out their children and ostracize them, and you make them feel really uncomfortable, that's what it's going to take.
Well, it's like the ugly American. The idea that the United States government is going to give San Salvador a grant of money that they desperately need, but in order to get the grant, they must also use GMO from Monsanto. Now, how did Monsanto get involved in decision-making on giving money to foreign countries for aid? How does that work? Well, it means that Monsanto, like Jimmy Carter said in ARP 2 months ago, Washington, D.C. is for sale. Nothing is real anymore. It is all orchestrated, and watch how it works when Clinton gets into being our president.
Larry Nichols said it too. He said it right here on USA Prepares. He said, we have the best government money can buy. It's just we can't afford to buy it. Very much like what Jimmy Carter said, and Will Rogers said, we have the best money Congress money can buy. They're all correct. We do. Rick, I was at the meetup on Monday, and I mentioned to the group, I said, there's a drought in California. It's pretty serious. And it's been continuing for quite a long time, and almost the entire state is in a drought condition, as reported by John Reagan. Week after week after week, he's reported this. And about 0.2% of the state is not in drought. Well, I said to the meetup group, okay, so what would you do if you thought that the drought would continue another month? 2 months, 6 months, a year, 5 years. What if you thought it would continue forever? What would you do if you lived there? And we talked about the food supply, produce coming from California. And here's the point. Rick, there was a very serious nuclear catastrophe in Fukushima. Reactors melted down. Radioactivity went into the air. And there are many people, including one of our senior instructors in Europe, who was discussing this with me, and he mentioned that the charge of the atmosphere as a result of the radiation in the atmosphere is pushing the moisture away from California. And right now it happens to be landing in the Midwest, and we're benefiting from it. We're benefiting from their drought. Here in Missouri, we're benefiting from the drought in California. So we have some moisture here, and we're able to grow some grass. And from a moisture perspective, it's kind of It's a benefit that we have more rain. We've had drought here, and it's been terrible. Farmers had to sell their cows. So we understand what happens when there's a drought. It really impacts farmers. I mean, you just can't farm without water. I mean, it's impossible. It's literally impossible. So what would we do if we knew this drought was going to continue for a while? Well, it looks like the radiation is going to continue, in our terms, forever. And the drought is going to continue. If you believe this science. Rick, what do you think? Is this possible?
It's not only possible, it's actually literally happening. This was the hottest, driest year of my life in Oregon. And I've never been in a place that had triple digits, 9 different weeks in places unrelated, like a week of triple digits, and then it's in the 80s, and then it's back to triple digits. And in Oregon, down here in southern Oregon, it's done this 9 times now. 9 times. Today, we'll be in triple digits. That's today.
So
we're going to have triple digits again.
So, Rick, here's what I'm thinking.
I wouldn't live here, by the way. I would have moved a long time ago back north if this had been this way when I first moved down here. I would not have stayed. Oregon was always a little drier than I'm comfortable with. Now it's unacceptable.
So here's what I'm thinking, Rick. General Electric was involved in electric power generation early on, making generators and power generation equipment at many levels, including the nuclear level. And that was on the supply side. On the demand side of electricity, they were making appliances, toasters, refrigerators, dishwashers, curling irons, hair dryers, most fans, cooling fans for the home, all kinds of appliances and electronic gadgets that used electricity. So they were supplying the electricity, and they were building the devices for consumers to consume or use that electricity. Well, they decided to sell their appliance business. And I thought, it's amazing. That's amazing. I don't think General Electric appliances are all that great. I've got some, and I had to repair one of them last night for Mrs. Finelli. I had to fix the stove because the bake unit wouldn't work because of an igniter that failed again. Well, I think GE made crappy appliances recently.
They don't make very good nuclear power plants.
Well, here, and that's the exact point. So
that's GE with better ways of living. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about that when we come back. Richard Allen Miller's with us, RichardAlanMiller.com, the real Fox Mulder of the X-Files. So, Rick, what I was saying is that the catastrophe, the nuclear catastrophe at Fukushima, many people believe has affected our weather. And when this reactor failed over 3 years ago, I believe that, and I can't prove this, it's just conjecture, that at the highest levels of GE, they said, uh-oh, this is a bad thing. And, maybe, I think they're pretty bright over there. I think somebody said, you know what, I'll bet there's going to be some consumer backlash. These guys are going to take it out on us, and they're going to stop. There's going to be a boycott. They're going to stop buying our appliances. We better dump that business before anybody figures out what we've done, how we've destroyed the planet, how we've created an event that could be a doomsday event, a society, causing society to collapse.
One of the geoengineering projects is actually to control the stratosphere's dump of plutonium. That's one of the 8 different forms of geoengineering I've been able to identify. They're actually trying to keep the rain of plutonium down to a minimum on the shores of Oregon and California. I don't know how that all works, and I don't know who makes those executive decisions. I know if it is being told to the public or for fear of our own good, trying to not have us panic.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but the radiation background levels here on the West Coast are up 10 times what they were prior to Fukushima.
Yeah,
Some
and
of that,
so
nothing to do with Fukushima. Has to do with Hanford and other GE products, like your hairdryer, that are leaking now.
So are you saying that the background radiation has literally nothing to do with Fukushima, or are you being facetious?
No, I'm not. I'm saying it's not doing with Fukushima. There are so many other vectors, it's going to be impossible to determine where the real radiation is coming from, whether it's from the Columbia River and heading into the Columbia River and what is causing that. Right now, there was a lot of speculation that the die-off of fish and other kinds of things in our tide pools was because of radiation. And they have identified that now mostly, not all, mostly through red tide and the fact that the ocean is now 3 degrees warmer than it was, and it's creating a new kind of red tide that is extremely toxic to everything. Now, at 3 degrees above normal from global is what brought on the Jurassic period and the end of the Jurassic epoch. And so it is now being predicted that the rise will be 10 degrees before we're finished. And that is catastrophic for all life on Earth. Basically, the Earth in the next 50 years has a high likelihood, from all the excellent physics I've got, looks to be uninhabitable for any kind of life as we know it. Extreme of ice bacteria that can live down a lava tube, maybe, but not man, and certainly not any of the microorganisms that I understand that make plant life live on the Earth.
Rick, we've got Kyle in Montana. Kyle has joined us. I just put his call on the air. Kyle, I just want to hang on just 1 second. Here's something that I'd like the class to think about. So many of you have wood stoves, and you might be thinking, you know what, it's okay. We'll be able to heat our home because we've got a wood stove and we've got this wood pile. Well, let's go out 10 years. Let's go out 10 years when the trees are dead and other life forms are dying. And let's say you do survive. It's going to be tough to grow things. It's tough to grow gardens now. Some people are successful. Other people have planted their gardens under plastic. So it's getting tougher. And if you're thinking about heating with wood, 50 years out, it might be really, really tough. Kyle, welcome.
Good morning, Vince. Good morning, Dr. Miller.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kyle.
I just, this GE thing, we have a dryer, and the same thing happened with it, Vince. It's just, I traced it all out and tore it apart, and finally come down to the conclusion that it was the control panel is the only thing that was controlling this thing, and you can't even get parts for it anymore. It's just amazing to me. But I had another thought. That's one of my triggers. I just can't stand GE stuff. I won't even buy it anymore. None of it.
Right.
Right. But I'm thinking, Dr. Miller, we got to do something to try to get you out of there. And I was thinking, like, we had a money bomb, so to speak, for the guy to go to Kentucky. We ought to do something to see if the USA people can get you moved out of there, either over here to Montana or all the way to Vince's, if that's what you want to do. Because
I love Montana, but I could. You got some serious weather there, buddy. I have been to Livingston.
Well,
in the
I got to tell you, it's the winters are a little more.
Oh, really?
But yeah, you just it's like the old timer said, you got to cowboy up.
Cowboy up. More like Eskimos. I'll tell you, nookie. Listen, Sandpoint, Idaho has got it's got a sustainable lifeboat up there in Sandpoint at Peaceable Kingdom on the Pack River. And I've just had a couple of my buddies from Shasta just moved there, start projects up on the sustainable lifeboat thing up there near there. And so where are you located from Sandpoint? Sandpoint's right there by the border, right? So you know where that is, right?
Yeah, it is, but it's probably 350 miles or so south of me.
Okay, you're up in the mountains right there in the Rockies, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm up in the northwest corner.
That's the really harsh part. Did you know I did a project with the previous governor to market that bear grass that you have on those mountains? That bear grass is used by Holland for 400 cargo boxes every year.
Interesting.
What you can do as a form of living off that is go up that mountain during the season, and as it got warmer, you go up a little higher, harvesting the bear grass for export. And by doing that, you could manage that crop as one of the primary florals in the world. And nobody knows that part where you're living right now is a treasure trove for the floral trade.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, we have more grass than a bear has fur, but it's not this is a great place to live. I mean, we don't seem to, like Vince, you were talking about the sun. All summer long here, it was really brutally hot, and we had a very, very, very dry year. We just got about a week of rain that pretty well made everything, green up a little bit here before we probably won't get snow till towards the end of October, but middle to the end of October. But, it's already been down to like 34 degrees, 32 degrees here in the morning, and the highs in the day.
Yeah, where I am right now, we're going to have triple digits today. It'll be at least 101.
Well, the high today is supposed to be 78, so.
Wonderful. Sounds lovely. Yeah.
Oh, it is lovely. But I was just thinking, if you need to get out of there to go to Sandpoint, we should do something for you, because you've given us a lot of information and I'd be one of the first to contribute. So
I see my exit probably on a pole with tar involved. That's how they're going to exit me, probably. Come running in with a big pole and some tar.
Yeah. I wonder, Rick, if you're not really correct on that. That might be the graduation ceremony individually for many of us at USA Prepares.
Yeah, that's
Seriously.
what they call hazing, just like in your, getting to go to a gay bar. They're going to do it to you.
Rick, I just looked up this bear grass, and it is really expensive. So 10 bundles of 10 stems each.
They have whole mountains of it there. And it's
$55
every year. And the
$55.
Yeah,
Rick,
well,
this is $55
don't think of it in terms of money. Think of it in terms of BTUs in to dollars out. And the bear grass is an easy one and is renewable. And what you do is it's called, originally my native plants book was called the something about the nomadic forager. That means when you range over a period of a season, because like mushrooms only have a certain way of fruiting in certain weather conditions, and that weather condition changes. So it's the nomadic life of the professional wildcrafter. And going up a mountain is really cool. When I lived in Washington, when it got hot, you just simply went higher up on the mountain to get cool. And, and at some point you hit snow line. That doesn't even exist in Oregon. There are no snow lines in Oregon anymore. That's crazy.
Rick, you met Marjorie Wildcraft at the expo, right?
Yes.
She changed her name to Wildcraft because of your book.
I know. A lot of people can make a living supplementing their incomes. My girlfriend has this tree out in front of her yard that has a pod on it that is throwing off the pod right now called Chinese lantern. It's a big tray, and you cut these things out. She's got probably $200 worth of unknown pod that has immediate markets, and it wouldn't take her more than half a day to cut it all, half a day, but 4 hours, and she would have $200 from the local floral trade. People do not realize that every single region has native plants and natural resources that would be your herbal pharmacy. Would be, when the grid collapses, your pharmacy is right there. Originally, that's where all our drugs came from. And why we synthesize them is because Germany was our primary source for raw materials when we went to war. And so that's the idea of why chemistry went in the direction it did, was because of war.
DocRAM is with us. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us. DocRAM.com or RichardAllenMiller.com. Kyle's with us. We have two USA Prepares instructors with us. And
Thank
Kyle,
you, Kyle, by the way, for the invite.
Yeah. And of course, Rick, there's a room here for you. John Stetmiller called me one day and he said,
I know. What I'm going to do is get a pony and network. I'll be the postman.
Yeah. So John Stetmiller said to me, he called me one day and he said, hey, I'm coming to the farm, and I said, Rick Miller's going to be here and some of the other guys and Ed Marvini, and he said, is my room still there? And I said, yeah, it's still there. And he said, okay, good. And I said, now, I just want you to know it's Rick's room too. And I said, so if you find out that you're in bed and somebody goes, hey, move over. It just might be Rick. So anyway, Kyle, while you're with us, I have a question for both of you. I've taken a stand. We've had the meetup for years, about 5 years. We've been meeting, once a week. And I've taken this stand about cell phones. And I said, I've announced on the air that, I'm tired of the cell phones. I'm tired of the tracking and the spying. And I'm also tired of the electromagnetic radiation. So you think about it, you've got a train car, and you're in a train car, and everybody's got a cell phone there. So you're now in a microwave oven. If you're in a bus, same thing. And if you're in a restaurant, same thing. So the restaurant closes. Jimmy's Egg closes for us every Monday at 2 o'clock, and then they reopen for us at 4:45 to 8 p.m. So I decided that I'm not going to go there anymore for any meetups if everybody's going to bring their cell phones. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to say, listen, oh, you guys have cell phones? Listen, I'm leaving. See ya. And I'm not going to do it. So I've taken this hard line, and I've gotten a bunch of emails and comments on Facebook from other instructors at USA Prepares, and they think it's kind of an interesting perspective, and they actually support my stand on cell phones. Kyle, what do you think?
Well, sir, Vince, I think the world of you, but I've got to say that on this one, I disagree. And I'll tell you why. Okay? I disagree because I think the small amount of time that you're exposed to that for those meetups' sake is a diminishing kind of I put it in the balance scales. I think what you accomplish there with the connections and the teaching and helping people possibly survive is to be exposed to that for, 4 hours, whatever it is not, I just think that it's a small price to pay. It's like they don't.
And I agree with you. Okay.
Okay.
Let me comment. Right. I agree with you. It's a small price to pay, and I feel that for that small price, everyone who wants to attend the meetup can leave their cell phone in the car.
Sure.
And I'm saying what you're saying. It's a small price to pay. If you want to come to the meetup, leave your cell phone in the car. The same thing I'm saying. If people come to my house, if you want to come to the house, sure, leave the cell phone in the car. Rick, your thoughts?
I don't have much. I just got invited to Georgia. Thank you, Scott. Everybody's giving me invites to stay with them now.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Kyle. Yep. You can be like Mike Ma.
Well, what I'm going to no couch surfing. What I'm going to do is get a really good horse and be the postman, where I network the news from one bunker to the next.
There you go. I think, Rick, you bring great news and information to this broadcast classroom, and there are lots of people who love you all over the world. They really do. And I just want to say publicly, I really appreciate your contributions. Kyle, I really appreciate
you giving me the opportunity and being my friend. You always start everything with a chuckle.
What's the alternative? What's the alternative? Not so good.
Yeah, well, you
Kyle,
gotta
thanks.
laugh at it or you can cry. That's the drama and the humor.
Mm-hmm. Kyle, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Kyle.
I've got to meet up. Yeah, I've got to meet up on Monday. Larry Nichols is going to be doing a teleseminar. So if you'd like to attend, it's free. But, leave your cell phones in the car. Class, Rick, thanks so much for being with us. Class, above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.